Hello and welcome to the Daily Conspiracy Podcast. We don't take days off because reptilians don't take days off. And we are joined today by Mr. Simon Holland himself. Professor
Hey.
Simon, thank you for coming on the Daily Conspiracy
Oh,
Podcast.
Lee and Ollie, it's great to be here. And what a great title sequence. I was like really hopping to that one. It has a bit of everything and some really great shots. Nice music as well. Well done. Yeah. So, yeah, everybody keep watching. So you cover some great subjects, and it's an honor to be. You want to talk about this giant comet that's heading towards Earth from interstellar?
Is it a comment? Is it a comment?
wow.
Is it a comment?
No.
Or is it aliens?
I'm gone. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. I don't know. I'll tell you what I know.
Go. Because I need to know whether I need to make plans past
make
October.
plans.
Because 2027 keeps cropping, it keeps getting closer.
Yeah, well, it's definitely coming. I mean, it's really it is a strange object. I mean, it's an interstellar visitor, and we've probably had lots of interstellar visitors. In fact, comets, as I use the comet word, I'll try not to use the balloon word tonight. That seems to get my audience into a tiz. But a comet word, most comets come from the Oort cloud, or some of them are interstellar. And so this is an interstellar object, meaning it's traveled from another solar system or some other rocky place, way out of ours. And it's heading straight for our sun. It's not heading towards the Earth. I mean, the sun is the gravitational attraction for it. But it does seem to be on a strange mission. Most comets, just because our solar system is actually quite big, go all over the place and just head towards the sun. But this one seems to have aligned a kind of trajectory with the inner planets. So Mars, Earth, Venus, and Mercury are all going to have quite a close pass until it goes around the sun. Luckily, we also go around the sun, and little Earth, is going to be on the other side of the sun when it goes zooming past. So it's not going to hit us. But what is it? Yeah, and that's just a good question. Maybe I could start with how they found it. So a few years ago, I lived in Hawaii, and I got teamed up with the Hawaiian University Astronomy Department. We had literally neighbors in the street that we lived in who weren't there. And they needed a film made about a new program called Atlas. The US government and NASA wanted to fund a wide-field telescope that could find asteroids that were under a kilometer in size. All the ones bigger than a kilometer had been tracked. And those are all in a database at a place in Boston called the Minor Planet Center. So this Atlas program uses originally it was one wide-field telescope that takes 4 pictures of the sky at night, takes out all the things that don't move, the stars, and anything that moves, they can work out its orbit, and then they just give the data to Boston, and they say, oh, we know about that one. Ooh, you found a new one. Now, a few years later, they've now got 2 telescopes in the Northern Hemisphere and 2 in the Southern Hemisphere, 2 in Hawaii, 1 in Chile, and 1 in South Africa, where I nearly went to visit, but COVID got in the way. This 3i Atlas, and let's go over the name. 3, it was the 3rd in human history or recent history, interstellar. Interstellar, and Atlas is the program, the people I know, John and Larry. They were great who found it. And one morning, and no doubt Larry came into work and went, comet or object, interstellar object. Yeah, I couldn't stop using the word comet. Interstellar object coming towards us. And they got to name it, and it's still coming. So that's great. It seems to be slightly oddly behaved. It doesn't seem to be like a normal comet. It doesn't seem to have a tail. It seems to be surrounded by dust, which is kind of poking out in different directions. A lot of telescopes are now tracking it, and there's some great pictures of it. Mm-hmm. And it's still a long way away.
We've seen some of the pictures, and for our audience, because I'm looking at this thing, and why is it so many different colours? Is that something to do with?
Oh yeah. That I know that picture is really confusing. No, there's actual big, narrow field, high resolution telescope pictures of the actual blobby, Mr. Blobby, but that picture with all the colors which are in a line is just a graphical representation of how it's moving, and they colorized its movement. It's not colors. It's not like a string of pearls. It's not even a string. I mean, it was just that as a time lapse picture of it moving, and it happened to be.
And then the internet went wild.
Yeah, it looked like a cat's eyes in the headlights or something. Yeah, no, it was just a graphic. I mean, well, I think it was a series of real pictures that with the item actually colorized. It's not colored. It's a rock of some type. But of course, I mean, wonderful Avi Loeb thinks. His great thing is, if you live in the street, occasionally your neighbor might throw rocks at your door and you go, oh, at least we know we have a neighbor. And that's probably what this is. But occasionally the neighbor next down the street might throw a tennis ball at your house and you go, they play tennis. They're intelligent. So that's his joke, really. So is it a rock from your neighbor, or is it something that we don't actually know what it is?
Well, he said this before was it a Me Amour?
Very good pronunciation. Yeah, Me Amour, a Hawaiian name. So that was originally called Rama, and then it was obviously, it must have been One Eye Pan Stars, but I don't know what the name, because it was found by a rival wide field telescope also in Hawaii. Nice people, Pan Stars people, great. And Avi's point about a Me Amour, meaning visitor or person who's coming with a message, and they asked one of the Hawaiian people at the university to name it, which was great, was that his classic phrase, if you showed an alien a strange object and they didn't know what it was. No, if you showed an ancient human a strange object and they didn't know what it was, they would go, rock. And that's what we saw when we see a Me Amour or Three-Eye Atlas, is we think, well, it's more likely a rock. But of course, we might not have the references to know what it really is. So no, people are taking it seriously. With a Me Amour, they listened to it to see if it was transmitting a message, because one of the theories or ideas, which is a good idea, is that it might be a kind of mothership for probes which are in our solar system, which are monitoring us, and it might be gathering data. But there was no transmissions in any frequencies or light or EM frequencies that we discern. So, and the same with this coming one. It seems pretty quiet, but it will be visible in the night sky eventually with a pair of binoculars. So that'll be good.
Wow.
I remember watching I think it was a live show that you was on, and they were talking about a signal coming from a star system where something was coming out of that star system, possibly towards us. Am I getting that right?
Well, certainly there was an awful lot of talk in 2024 about me saying that Breakthrough Listen had found a technological signature from a telescope in Australia, and I still stand by that because they told me it was, and then they backtracked it saying it might not be because they.
Could you remind us about that?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh God, it was such a. I mean, it filled my year. So
we spoke about this on the podcast.
Sure,
and we was blown away by it.
No, you should be, and as I say, we live in interesting times. That and the Cambridge teams looking at with the James Webb Space Telescope at a spectral analysis of an atmosphere of an exoplanet where they found a biosignature. We are not alone in the universe. I mean, it's just like they've told the Vatican have done an edict to all their bishops saying God loves aliens. Literally, it says that. The Department of Trade and Industry in the UK wrote a report to the Keir Starmer government saying, how can the UK exploit that we're not alone in the universe? I mean, both. So there's an awful lot of people who know this. I was told it by a senior person from a European radio astronomy administrator who said that the people who are looking at the breakthrough listen signal are really fed up with breakthrough listen and SETI specifically because they just don't want to release the data, but they've got an enormous number of what they're calling candidates, which some of them are really good. Where there's narrowband electromagnetic frequencies. I mean, they're aliens. Who knows what they're saying, what they're doing? Well, it's just they're not natural phenomenon. Put it like that. And the statistical analysis, the breakthrough listen BLC1, just I think is probably one of the best. Since then, I'm sure they found others because there's an organization in Holland called Astron. This is something that I don't normally tell people, but I'll tell you about it because it's not as if we're on the internet. Oh,
no,
we are.
It's fine.
This company called, this large organization called Astron. See, radio telescopes are no longer Jodrell Bank, and there's one in Australia. They're now global. So they're all kind of networked together, or they share data. And the data, and instead of just listening at one little frequency that SETI used to do, that Carl Sagan came out with, let's listen in the quiet spot. No, they now just listen everywhere. And there's so much data, they can now process it using AI. So they run all the telescopes all together, all through AI, and AI is being programmed to say, is there anything repeating? Is there anything mechanical? Is there anything narrowband, meaning a narrow group of frequencies together? And every time there is, it flags it as an email to the people. And this company then give it to Breakthrough Listen or SETI and go, you need to do further work. And I know somebody who works at that company, and they're pretty peed off that their work isn't really being made public. And the breakthrough BLC1 signal was heard initially in parks in Australia. It's just great. It's narrowband, it's electromagnetic, it's coming from a single point source. If you point the telescope away, it goes away. Point it back, it comes back. Every time it's there. It's there. Oh, go away, go. So it's always coming from the same place. And Breakthrough Listen just says it could be human interference. Okay, so there's a satellite. It would have to be up there, lined up with a telescope that's exactly in line with this exoplanet. And they went, well, yeah, well, there isn't one actually. And then the signals that you're receiving, are those signals that satellites use? Oh no, they're not really. I don't know, right? Okay. And then I spoke to the telescope guy. I said, tell me what piece of information nails it? He says it's rotating. It's in orbit. He said it's actually going round. So the signal is Doppler shifted. It goes up and down as we see it. So that means that the signal is actually on something that is going round. He said, is a satellite doing that? He said, no. And the real story behind it is SETI were advised by a very, very big advisor, I won't name, I know who it is, who said, don't tell people.
Well, this has always been a thought
right.
for me, is when something cast iron comes in.
Yeah.
See, we've kind of like just through watching media and stuff like that, we've been trained to think that it's going to be a screwed up piece of paper that Jeff Goldblum is going to try and run to the White House with.
Yeah, I know exactly.
So, what could possibly be put in the way of that type of stuff being published? And it must be incredibly frustrating for the people working on it.
The AI team are really frustrated. And it was a member of that even bigger than the AI team. It was one of the administrators of European Telescope said, you know that they found life? I went, no, Tommy. He told me to spill me the beans, and then I talked to people. And then when I eventually, after like nearly 2 weeks, I managed to get an interview with the principal investigator of Breakthrough Listen. I came on his show. I invited him on my show like this, and he said, "You're not recording this, are you?" I went, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "No, switch off." And he just went, "I'll talk to you, but you can't actually show this." I went, I had to, so I switched it off. And he said, "No, we haven't found anything." I said, "I know you have. I know the people who found it." He said, "No, it's interference. It's low probability." He said, "There is a signal, but we're not saying it's real." I said, "Why not?" And he says, "I don't want to say." And so I really dug into why. And the only kind of half sensible reason that SETI told me was that they want to be 3 steps ahead of the media. They want to be 3 steps ahead of the public. And I mean, I get their point. If you said, look, I think we might have found a vague signal, which kind of technological, and it was in the Daily Mail, everybody would say, what are they saying? And you go, well, we don't even know who they are. What do they look like? Well, we don't know who they are. Like he said, you really need, and if you can't answer that, which they won't, because it's just a vague signal, like the biosignature, we don't really know what's making the biosignature yet. You will appear as a science organization behind the loop. And they were worried, especially in this new American regime. This is how they got their advice, was they needed to be able to answer all the big questions. They couldn't just it couldn't be science. Yeah. It needed to be bigger than just science. It needed to be a movie, and they said, we're not doing it. We're not, we'll wait till we've got such great evidence that, that we can't hide it, that it's seen all. And the other problem is that China and Russia are way ahead in radio telescopes right now. China has got the biggest one in the world, and I can't even tell you what Russia are doing, because that's a fantastic story. And they're going to publish it. So I think SETI US or SETI Europe are going to miss out on this, and I think that's good. I think the Europeans are a bit pissed at that. That's the impression I get.
It's like, right. Well, I don't want to try, because we're not one of the sort of drama type channels. We're not into that. So that sort of stuff. But since it's just 3 of us, the obviously that live stream when you were talking about that did the business. The amount of clips I saw on TikTok, for shorts and things like that. That segment. And now we're quite good friends with Patrick from Vetted. He's been on a few times.
Oh, so sure.
Yeah. So I'm definitely not I'm not poking at him at all here, because I do really like the guy.
Yeah, I do.
But I was wondering, with the change, because I got in touch with him after that live stream. I was like, come on the show, let's talk about this, because that's fucking wild. I just it was one of my favorite live streams I think I've ever watched.
Oh.
And he was like, he said, oh, come on. He says, it's amazing, stuff like that. That was 2 days later. And 2 days later, he came on our podcast. And he went from, this is amazing, to, I'm not really talking about it. It's kind of nothing. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, hence the name of the show. And I'm thinking, like, who the fuck got to Patrick?
I often wonder. I mean, I would love people to get to me. I've never really had an obvious push in any direction by anybody. I would I certainly get people who kind of, you would understand this phrase as being Brits as a kind of gypsy's warning, like you probably need to not to mention that kind of thing, or is it really wise? And interestingly, the place that I get that from is mainly from Patreon, and I think somebody told me that there are people paid by national governments to just monitor society, monitor influences like you, what you're saying, what you're discussing, and if you ever stumble on something or go past the kind of mark where they think they might just say it's probably best if you didn't talk about non-nuclear, or I can't even say the word, that kind of thing. And I've certainly had that from somebody that I assumed was just a viewer, but I think he's probably has a small budget to support me because he gets to see things earlier and he writes me personal emails. He just could be super patriotically nerdy and a bit conservative. I don't know, but I've never been offered money.
Do you think one thing that stood out to me with especially when it comes to signals coming from space, and I had this conversation with my father when I was very young, when he told me about Voyager, or if you're a Star Trek fan, Voyager.
Yeah, that's right. I get it.
And the one question I asked my dad, I said, "Is it?" I think I asked this when I was about in my late teens.
Okay.
Is it not dangerous to advertise where we're from?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Simon? Like,
I'm very strong in that. I mean, Stephen Hawking, absolutely, near the end of his life, said that probably the best thing that we could do is to keep quiet and not tell, because not everybody, if you look at the history of humans going to foreign countries and wonderful natives welcome them ashore on their weird horses, and they kill them all. It's like, yeah. I not that the aliens necessarily be like that, but yeah, no. It's actually a very good question, because there's two big organizations that are a bit competitive. There's SETI, which is Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and there's METI, which is Messages to Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And METI people are quite strong. They sent a really powerful signal going, "Hi, we're here," from Arecibo in the 80s or 90s, and people went, "I don't think that's a good idea," and it's still going on. The people are still pro-METI. I'm not. That's why I like the current radio telescope work, because we're not communicating with them. We're eavesdropping on what is literally signals or a technological signature. The idea that the thing that we've probably heard is the buzz of a planet. Imagine you were on the moon with a transistor radio. You're too young to know what they are. And you tuned it between stations. You would pick up all this Wi-Fi. Oh, you know what that is. Oh, no, you don't, actually. And radio, people playing music on your... And you would know that down there in that blue thing that they were making electromagnetic frequencies do stuff. And that's what we're doing with the telescopes, is that we're actually listening to see if there's a signature of anything. There's a team looking for glints of light reflections. Maybe an alien technological race has covered half the planet with something shiny, like a building.
Like a Dyson sphere?
No, they're talking on a rocky planet. Dyson spheres are fantastically around a star, to harness the energy. But maybe they've just covered their planet with solar cells or a shiny building. And so is it glinting, which would be very unusual for a rock? Or there's a wonderful woman from San Diego who's part of SETI, and she's looking for nanosecond light bursts, because she thinks that lasers, especially in a kind of quantum way, might be able to do faster than light communication. And the signature of that would be, say, from somewhere in our solar system, there's something that's sending a message back. So she's got this telescope in Central California looking for light flashes, and she's found some. So what are they? We don't know. So there's lots of searches.
It seems like,
but don't say that we're here.
No, don't tell them where we're from. That seems like kind of common sense. You would think that they would need permission from kind of the world to say, listen, we want to send this signal out, and ask all the world leaders, is this fine to do?
That doesn't happen. I mean, I think one good thing about the astronomy community is that when an astronomer in one country finds something interesting, like the 3i Atlas, they don't keep it to themselves. It's not like a bio company going, "I cured COVID," or whatever. They'll share it, and then telescopes all around the world go and check it. So I think they're one of the most open sciences that there is. But there is no world global leadership of advice. Even the UN are pretty, not that together in advice. I think they do I think they think carefully about what they're doing and do it.
Did you see Jeremy Corbell's very dramatic, but quite cynical warning about them telling us about a spacecraft that's on its way. And there's a date, a certain date.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've not heard anything similar to him. People tell me stuff. It seemed very sinister. I mean, I think.
Did you believe it?
No, not particularly. He's a big, larger than life character. He has a lot of clout. He probably heard it from some reputable source. But I mean, I hear things. I'm friends with people like Jack Sarfati, and Jack's like full of it. I mean, the kind of things that Jack says literally on a daily basis, about extraterrestrials or UFOs or the end of the world, or he's really pretty strong on Ukraine and nuclear weapons. But it's his personal opinion. Just because he's a big knob doesn't mean that it's right. I mean, I think, and Jack's actually quite funny about it. I remember when he stayed with me, he said, nuclear weapons don't work anymore. And I went, really? I said, that's good.
Don't test them though.
Yeah. But then he told me why, and it's quite interesting, although it's complicated. I won't repeat it. And but what he said, and he keeps on saying this, and when you're talking to him, he says, I might be wrong.
Is that because the aliens? The aliens stopped them?
Yeah, he thinks aliens. Yeah, he thinks aliens have stopped them. Wow. Yeah. I wouldn't count on it.
No. I like to see. I love the idea of the Space Brothers coming to look after us and like just being up there, just watching, just in case we do anything ridiculous. But on the other hand, if something's there that's that secretive, I can't think of something that would be that secretive and not sinister.
Yeah, exactly. I think they want something.
Well, we were speaking before off air about the mummies, and it got me thinking about Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
one of my favorite films of all time, Close Encounters.
Well, yeah, fantastic.
And those things look exactly like those little aliens.
The aliens at the end of Close Encounters. Yeah, that was one. Right. I'm just doing a film about that with Jesse Michael, and and I've always slightly ignored the funny mummies and the people.
We have to start.
But you're wrong. You're literally my last 3 days has been full of mummies and balloons, but mummies mainly. And there's 3 different classes of mummies that have been found in Peru. There's a very sad group, which are probably children and animals stuck together to make some kind of representation of a strange creature. Why? I think that's really interesting, but sad. Then there's maquettes, which are wooden and plaster. Again, copies of this strange-looking creature, but they're not in any way living. And those are the ones which turned up at the airport in Mexico, and they're farcical. They're like a puppet. And
those are the ones that were displayed in the caskets.
Yeah, they're just like, what are they? But they're actually more interesting than you think. They're actually old, some of them.
I was just about to ask that.
So, and they represent we always have to be very open to, ancient cultures. The ancient Peruvians obviously had some meaning behind them. But let me jump straight into the big thing that blew my mind earlier in the week, and you might have seen Jesse's film, is that there's a third class called the M class mummies, and these are called hominoids or hominids, and these are human. I mean, they're not. They've done CT scans. One of them's actually pregnant, and they've got 3 fingers and 3 toes on each hand, arm, and leg, and they've got strange shaped heads, and they're small. And one of them is female, is pregnant, and has a 3-fingered fetus. They're not made up. They're and they're real. I mean, but my take on it is that humans used to be far more diverse. Amazingly, we are all the same because we actually have a very close shared ancestor. And this research came from this guy called Stanley Ambrose, who has this pretty accepted theory called the genetic bottleneck theory, where large he doesn't like me saying this, but I'm going to, near extinction events or genetic events where population sizes were reduced to a very small number due to some stressor like a volcano, a global event, an asteroid hitting. After the bottleneck event where only a few people survive, you, me, literally, we then start growing out and diversifying and reproducing. But the pre-bottleneck diversity is lost. So the ones with the, you live in a country, Britain, where you've got myths of giants everywhere in England and in Scotland, and in Ireland there's little people. And I think we did have giants, and I think we had very short people. And there's fossil evidence that prior to the last bottleneck, which was probably Lake Toba exploding, which gave a 100-year winter, which would have killed a lot of things, is that we had a greater diversity of types and shapes and sizes and abilities. And the mummies in Peru don't predate the Toba eruption. They're much more recent. But I argue that they are a great example of bizarre human diversity. They probably lived in a little group. We think they lived and survived for 1,000 years. There's a record of them. They all had 3 fingers, and they were probably revered by the 5-fingered lot, us, and they were treated nicely. They were buried, and maybe the other maquettes were made based on but they are real people, but they just had 3 fingers, and they're weird looking. I just think they had a strange genetic deformity, and they were happy to live like that, and they were. Yeah, I think they should be greatly respected, but they're not aliens. They have human DNA.
Yeah,
so, it's a great story.
The one thing that really stuck out to me, and Lee, you mentioned this. Do you remember the what everybody thought was an alien hoax in Russia with the little being? They said they used chicken skin and also how much that looked like those little. That was incredible. The likeness of that thing.
Yeah, so the amalgam ones, the type A and the type B ones in Peru, seem to be very similar to the Russian creature that was found, and and also, I mean, it's very similar to what we saw in ET or Close Encounters. So, is there a shared human, knowledge of what an alien might look like? I don't know. The Class M mummies don't look like ET. They are very short, big heads, which is again a genetic deformity, and 3 fingers. I mean, they're not normal, but they are definitely, they had normal organs and bodies and things. They just were odd. But it's interesting if there's a global consciousness of alien types. It's interesting.
I mean, the M class ones, they do look very much like what people think they see. When you were the big heads, the 3 fingers, the thin bodies. I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
When you were speaking to Jesse, did he mention about the guy? Like, it seems like that guy's taken people to the place where he didn't find the bodies, isn't it?
He didn't. The only conversation that we had was about usage of his film, and I was very complimentary about his camera work and film rights and things. He didn't go into great detail about the trip, so I don't know. I think it's in the film that he made. He talks about the people he went with, and I think Peru is probably quite a hard country to work in. I think you need permission and speak to people properly. I think it's a bit touchy.
I just found it really interesting that this guy maybe that supposedly found these mummies in this cave, and he's obviously charging people to get to that cave.
Yeah.
What would possibly be the reason for not taking people to the real place he found the things?
No, well, maybe he's not allowed to. I don't know. I mean, I working at the BBC. It's changed now, but we used to want to do lots of films in Egypt. And it used to be that the head of Egyptology in Cairo just said no. He was not interested in any film which said they're aliens or how the pyramids were built by weird stuff. He just said no. It's a straight line. This is the only story you can come to Egypt to film. That has changed now with a new head of antiquities. But at one time, it was locked down. There was no conspiracy theory about Egypt even discussed as a.
Was that the same guy? Was that the same guy that made himself look a little bit silly on Joe Rogan?
It could have been. It could have been. He was not particularly liked. You had to go through his office to say that we were coming to do a film. And woe betide you. And there was lots of sites where there are really interesting hieroglyphs that show possibly spaceships or weird carvings or strange-headed creatures and things like that. And they were just completely, you couldn't go there. They didn't want that linked to sully their great Egyptian culture. It was not of interest to them. I worked in Mexico for a while, and they for over 3 months. And speaking to the museum in Mexico City, they also were completely, please don't say ancient aliens. Do not talk about Mayan spaceships, so it's really disrespectful because, the things that they actually are showing are carved are of great significance to our culture, and they're not aliens. All right. So he was I remember him telling me that. I was going, yeah, sure, I agree.
It's fascinating because there's pyramids all over the world.
Sure.
And these are civilizations that, as we know, wouldn't have been able to get to each other, as far as we're aware. I wonder if are you aware of you must be aware of the recent. I don't know if it's been actually confirmed, and I can't remember the name of which pyramid it's underneath. But Jay Anderson did he did a really good presentation on it's somebody else's work with is it the LiDAR footage? Shows...
me and Chris Leto talk about it a lot. Yeah, sure.
What do you make of that?
I have a giant problem with it. I mean, I think it would be fantastic if there was a way of seeing 3,000 meters under solid limestone from space using the vibration of passing cars. Right. I mean, that's my problem. I mean, LiDAR, it's kind of slightly, for me, he's got some actually quite good examples of where he has done it. He's done tests where he's looked at known stuff, and he says it works, and here they are, and it looks pretty realistic. But the way that it's kind of working is pretty dodgy science. I mean, oil prospectors use a similar technique where they set up a ring of seismometers and they put out little explosives in a circle, and then they can use the way that the shock waves propagate through solid rock to see a picture of what's underneath, to find oil or whatever. But this guy is saying, obviously you're not blasting squibs near the pyramid, and he says that the vibrations from traffic and normal human stuff is enough to actually have a very delicate 3D deep dive 3,000 feet into solid bedrock. Yeah, pull the other one. But Chris Leto, who I like very much,
me too.
He's completely has bought into it. I mean, Chris and I both know about radar and LiDAR and synthetic aperture radar a bit, and Chris has obviously used it a bit more than me. And it's real stuff. but I don't know. Of course, I want it to be real because it would be the purpose of the giant pyramids are completely unclear. They're not burial tombs.
No.
Definitely not. They obviously have a function. And if we could work out what they are, I'd love it. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, I think the legends of is it Osiris? He was green apparently.
Oh yeah, right. I remember working on a Tutankhamun big film for, I think it was Channel 4, not that long ago, and yeah, no, their family. Oh my God, they're very odd-looking people. I mean, his dad and his sister, they're pretty weird. And no, why do they look like that? Who were they? Yeah, there's weird stuff in Egypt. Definitely.
See, that plays well into the idea of like a more diverse human species as well, doesn't it? Rather than just
good point.
Sure. As far as the stuff that's under the pyramid, it seems to me if this group is having so much like questions thrown towards them of the science of what they're doing, if it was me and it was my project, I would set up with somebody else with a neutral body to do a controlled experiment. So look, we'll do what I'm doing. You set up what we need to look at, and we can confirm the technology works, and then we can go back and talk about the pyramids.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've had a few press conferences, and there's a few people taking them seriously, and they do seem to be doing something. I don't deny that they've got some kind of technique. They've certainly demonstrated it, but how good it is, and I don't know. Chris Leto thinks it's totally real, and that using the idea was about synthetic aperture radar is that the synthetic apertures because you've got two offset. And then the difference between the two is incredibly delicate. I mean, he told me this story, which is very much from a Air Force type of story. He said it's so accurate that you can measure the height of an aircraft on a pad sitting on the apron. And because of the height of the oleo struts, the shock absorbers above the wheels, and you can tell that they're normally this high. And then if you go back in a week and they're now down here, you know that the plane's got fuel in it. He said it's that
interesting.
Yeah, so it is good. And it obviously, with all military technology, what we kind of assume that people have is nothing compared with what they've actually got. So he might know more about its accuracy than I do.
Well, it would make sense that if I will back him up that people may cover things up with buildings, because that's what Ross Coulthard said. We spoke about that the other day. So you must have heard about the UFO so big that somebody built a building over it. And is it Moneypenny came out the other day and said she believes she's discovered where it is.
I like that she said it was in Nebraska because I always use Nebraska as a center. I actually heard that Nebraska is a place that they're experimenting with quantum tunneling communication. It's really amazing how long a signal takes to go from a headquarters of Strategic Air Command round to Hawaii. I mean, that length of delay, and especially if you're flying a remotely piloted vehicle, the latency on your joystick could be really confusing. Even at light speed, if it's thousands of miles away, you go like that and it goes, which is rubbish. You need it to move. You couldn't fly something like that. So there's been a lot of research into having a military quantum tunneling communication, which is faster than light because it's instantaneous. It's not faster than light, it's instant, which is which is
sorry, Simon. Is this the same place that she's talking about? That this is where the UFO is?
And so I heard that the place that they're doing this, and interestingly, that technology might not be human, because we haven't officially kind of said much that we can do it, and it kind of ties in a bit with something I know about SETI and quantum tunneling. But so maybe there is a technological knowledge that we've got from somebody who isn't human. And incredibly, I've heard that the place that they're doing it is Nebraska, and then suddenly Moneypenny's saying that the building is in Omaha, which is an Air Force base where they have this facility. I was thinking, okay, right, there you go.
That's really interesting. We'll make sure we clip that and bring that up, because she's actually coming on the show, I think, in 2 days' time to talk about it. So.
Right. What's her background?
She used to work for the BBC, and all of a sudden she's come to prominence because she started, like, she put that video out for Ross Coulthard. It's one of the reasons I want to get her on the podcast, is to say, like, what's with the sudden interest and type thing. She's a big Formula One fan as well, so she can't be that.
Okay, no, she's good. That's great. Oh, I look forward to hearing your interview with her. She seems really interesting, and it's nice to have a new voice. I get into a lot of trouble by being a bit loudmouthed and saying things, speaking out of turn. All this alien signal stuff got me into such hot water last year. But I don't mind, because, if I hear it's true, I might make a mistake. But if I think it's true, I'll say it. I mean, I don't care. It's important to say it.
Absolutely.
I think people conflate people lying with people being allowed to be wrong, and it doesn't make sense. People should be allowed to be wrong. Just because you've said something that might not be true or might be true, it's as long as you believe it at the time you say it. You're not trying to deceive someone. You're trying to relay information that you think you have.
I think the other thing in science as well, I mean, as new data comes in, you can take a very strong stance to say it's not this, and then you get new data and you go, oh, they were right, and you need to change, because you've. When we were talking about the mummies, I thought they were just weird cardboard puppets that turned up in a cardboard box at Mexico, but no, I don't anymore. These are real people. These are really interesting ancient Peruvians. They're very interesting.
I'll never forget Ryan Graves' face when they asked him for a picture next to the mummies, and he was like, "No, keep them away from me,
please."
I felt terrible for him.
The mummies.
I do get that because of what he's trying to do. I've always had a big disagreement with Mick West when he says that he knows what David Fravor saw, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Mick, you made a computer game in the late 90s. This guy flew planes for a living, the best of the best. He's going to know the difference between a seagull and something anomalous. But you've been doing some work with talking about aerogels when it comes to the Tic Tac. I'm really interested to hear your take on that on this show.
All right. So this was very much shared with. I mean, I don't know my take on that, and it's my work is very much where did it happen? I mean, and that question, where and when, is a great question to ask about Rendlesham Forest as well, because if you understand why Suffolk, and then you start going, and so why the Tic Tac was seen in the place it was seen is very interesting, because it was seen in something called a military operational area off the coast of San Diego in the Pacific, where multiple agencies, this is their actual agreement, can test advanced aerospace equipment or do military live fire exercises. And different agencies can work simultaneously in the MOA because it's big. And so you could have the Nimitz group doing a live fire training exercise, and you can have a subsea Navy group launching something. That's what we think it is. And they don't need to talk to each other. That's the other requirement. Right. As long as they are both independently, they don't need to talk to each other, but they're talking to me. They're talking to San Diego, which is the controlling authority. They really do know what happened. Because if you start buying into that, when I was then told that there's these vacuum buoyant craft, not balloons, vacuum buoyant craft. These are a new-ish technology where what's lighter than air, hydrogen, what's lighter than hydrogen, nothing, a vacuum. So imagine buoyancy of a vacuum, but they've managed to make it so it doesn't collapse by using a hard, like a spun metal called aeroloi. Or they've made a shell to contain the vacuum. And these are used for pseudo satellites. And interestingly, they've just announced 4 days ago that they're real, and that they have put out a tender to other manufacturers with how to build them, to build more for the Department of Energy and the National Reconnaissance Office. So anything that Josh told me and I passed on to you guys about aerogel is true. Now, could it be that they were testing an aerogel type device? Well, unbelievably, if you look at the design of these aerogel drones, they're 40 foot long, they're white, and they look like a giant Tic Tac. It's going, oh, right, okay. Oh, and some of them are circular, and they are launched subsea from a submarine. They pop up to the surface of the water where they orientate themselves to get and they are also, when they're in water, they're hydrophobic, so the water doesn't stick to them. They pop up. And then when they're ready, they're not on a winch. They just go up. They are the vacuum is evacuated, and then they shoot up vertically.
So there's nothing inside them.
No, because there's nothing inside them. And then they go up above the Princeton's maximum radar limit, which is 80,000 feet. So they disappear, but they're up. They have to stay in the atmosphere, so they're probably 100,000 plus, and they just stay up there, and they're long loitering pseudo satellites. You just look them up, do a Google search for long loitering.
I listened to a bit of your show today, and this company has said they can build them in in spheres, in cubes.
Yeah, that was. Oh, thank you for watching. Yeah, that's just been released, and that's what Josh, who was on the show today with me, told me 2 years ago, and now they're real. They were real 2 years ago, but now they're officially real. And yeah, they do different shapes. Now, was that what they saw? Well, the big problem with the Tic Tac is that then Fravor saw it going up really fast, and then when it went up, another one. No, they had a report that possibly the same one was at their CAP point, or CA peak, their tally point, where they go back and circle before going back to the Nimitz. And well, Joshua said, well, why does it have to be one? Why doesn't one go up and one, because it's Navy, he thinks, one came down and hovered at the CAP? The only horizontal movement we're getting is people saying, well, it was where David Fravor and Alex Dietrich saw it, and now it's here. So it must have gone at 40,000 miles an hour. Well, hang on. Maybe that one went up and another one came down. And there's no David Fravor never saw it moving horizontally. He saw it going up very fast, which is faster than I would have expected a buoyant balloon to go up. So I think that's confusing. I don't know what went on there. And I totally trust David Fravor and Alex Dietrich, who stayed high and saw it go past her. It just went vertical, a bit like the Calvin. There's no report of the Calvin craft ever going horizontal. The witnesses and the MOD man told David Clark that the witnesses saw it go shooting up vertically. a very similar type of buoyant device, in my humble opinion.
If I'm right, the Calvine had some. It didn't have the what's being reported from the Tic Tac, which is the little like coat hanger things, but it did have the square at the back.
It did have something at the back, didn't it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the main thing about it is it doesn't have wings, it doesn't have propulsion, and it's buoyant. I mean, that's the only way it's going to stay up there, unless it's aliens. Unless it's some incredibly exotic anti-gravity type device, which it might be, but I don't know about it. If it's in the real world right now, it's probably a buoyant device. And in the Calvin case, where was it seen? Oh, in the Scottish test area. Okay. When was it seen? Just after Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, wanted something to be over Kuwait to give information back to the United States. And it probably came from the US. It probably flew into Machrihanish. BAE Systems in Wharton had to have.
We seem to have lost Professor Simon.
He's been tic-tacked.
He has been tic-tacked. If you can hear us, Professor Simon, log out and log back in. I was just about to say to Simon,
hey, I'm back.
He's there. We lost you for like they're trying to end this. They know you figured them out.
They definitely want us to end. And well, I probably also need to go. So I was going to say the Calvins. If you want to edit it together, the Calvin craft went to Q8, where it was probably a buoyant surveillance thing. And Tic Tac, who knows? I mean, if it's alien technology, it's fantastic. If it's advanced physics, it's fantastic. Or it might be a buoyant device which has just been released. So who knows?
Just quickly, if you need to wrap this up,
sure.
If you were saying before about these like the low density balloons, and if it shot up, and you're saying that it moved up quicker than what you're kind of comfortable with thinking it would go.
I do.
How quick could it move down? Because
I think the movements. Well.
Because I'm guessing it would
the
have
movements don't make any sense.
Yeah.
No, it's not. If it is the technology that Josh and people are talking about, it's not a particularly fast. I mean, it would shoot up, and it would come down, but I don't think it would come down super fast. It's certainly not at the speeds that the Princeton saw it on radar. But the whole thing is stealthy. It's covered in a metamaterial. It needs to be invisible to radar. It might have radar jamming or spooking technology on it, so it's actually confusing a radar that sees it because it's supposed to stay up there secretly. So, but I mean, the one thing about it, the reported speed doesn't make any sense to that type of technology. I'm quite happy to say that.
Has anybody talked about possible propulsion with using this material and how fast you could get it to go and maneuver?
No, I think it's actually reasonably fragile. If anything, I think it's designed to go up to extreme heights, the edge of space. They call it a pseudo satellite. It's almost low Earth orbit, but it's still in our upper atmosphere. And I think it's quite fragile. I think if you hit it, it would break. I think. I was asking somebody what they do with them. Do they bring them back? And they said, no, they normally destroy them. They blow them up, or they let them go higher up and they explode, or in this case, it would implode. And they don't want to have them back. So I think that it'd be great if we ever found little bits of weird spun metal in our garden. That means there's something over your house. But no, I don't think they would. I don't think they're particularly designed to be high-speed craft. I think they're designed to be incredibly high.
It's funny you should say a little piece of spun metal. People have I can remember people finding bits of almost you might have seen the conspiracy. This was a few years ago. People were finding bits of gel, almost like snow, on the grass or on the sand. And they were like, "What is this? What is this stuff?"
Sure. No,
maybe it was one of them that were hit.
That opens a whole can of worms about UAP, because and we should. It's a massive conversation that UAP are probably trans-dimensional, and what we see with UAP is a tiny bit of it poking into our reality, and I think that bit and they're probably plasma craft, intelligent plasmas in that fourth state of matter. And one of the things about plasma is that when it coalesces and goes back from plasma into the third or second state of matter, it drips. It actually exudes matter, and you get this plasma streamers coming down. And people have found hair and gel under UAP sightings. I think that's a big clue to what UAP might be, that they are not really here. There's a bit of them poking through into our reality and maybe consciousness, and the bit that pokes through might like an exhaust pipe drip something occasionally. And I think people have found weird stuff. Yeah,
some of the oldest sightings, people recorded things dripping, UFOs dripping. I've
heard lots.
I wonder if that would explain the, like, I'm going to call it a modern phenomenon because it's when I've sort of paid attention to it, like what they call them, jellyfish UFOs.
Sure. I'm not that big a fan of solid objects in our atmosphere, which are alien. I think it's probably very foolish of an extraterrestrial race to have something actually in our atmosphere. I think UAP are much more of a phenomenon, and I think they're intelligent. We know they're intelligent because they take evasive action and they can communicate. But I don't think they're actually in a state of matter that we live in, the far field solid stuff of atoms. I think inside us is the subatomic world of the near field of quantum, which we are made of as well, but we're pretty out of touch with that. But I think UAP are much more part of that near field quantum universe. But that, as I said, you started this. It's a can of worms, Ollie.
I'm more on board. I'm more on board with the idea that they're not nuts and bolts craft as well. I think especially when you look into the steps forward we're making, like when we look at consciousness, especially when it comes to psychedelics and things like that. I think the idea that whatever we're finding and whatever we're seeing is doing exactly the same thing we are. They're going to find a load of minerals and stuff, and they're going to come back and they're going to machine it into something and then traverse thousands of light years. It doesn't.
How long is that going to take? Right. Yeah, I mean, crossing those interstellar distances, you need to be in a state where time and space-time is connected. And to be in space-time, there's a way of connecting space-time, and that's being in the quantum field. And as soon as you're in there, you can go anywhere, not faster than light, as I said earlier, but instantly, because you are there already. You just have to make sure that you are there. And we are, as yet, as humans and as scientists, I think we're quite close to those kind of possibilities. And I think that's why I'm so interested in the study of consciousness, because if we understand how distant viewing, remote viewing, and consciousness works, I think it will really, really help us understand the truer nature of UAP. I mean, that's probably my biggest theory. I think UAPs are real. They're a global phenomenon. They're absolutely genuine, and they're conscious, and they're non-human intelligence. I mean, so when I talk about stuff which are man-made, that's completely a separate subject to what I really think is that UAP are real.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. We'll let you go if you're needing to get off, Simon.
I need to feed my goats are wanting their supper.
This has been fascinating.
I love goats.
you don't hate us too much that you won't come back and continue the conversation, and we'll go more down the road of what these things might actually be.
Just before you go, because obviously our main platform is Spotify, just tell the people where they can find you, where's the best place, and exactly what you do.
Yeah, sure. I don't do whatever Spotify is. No, I know what this is. I only have one platform. I'm old. I'm on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel called Professor Simon, and 176,000 subscribers, and I film every couple of weeks, or when something really gets my interest. And there's loads of great stories out just now. Right now, I'm doing the Peruvian mummies, balloons, and Beatrice Villarroel, and what else? Loads of things. Consciousness. Yeah,
awesome.
Sure.
Well, I'll leave the link in the description of this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Channel.
Thank you.
If you'll hang around for like 2 minutes after the like our little outro movie goes, Simon, so the video definitely uploads. That'd be awesome. But
yes, I understand that.
Yeah,
all right, gentlemen, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.